join us right here on the Splash Live is theater teacher and director from West Bloomfield High School, Kristine Stephens, and West Bloomfield High School junior and theater student, Brandon Young. Thank you so much for being here first and foremost. Let's get straight into it. Kristine Stephens, if you don't mind, first, what inspired this trip specifically to Greece for the theater class?
Hi, thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here. So this trip was inspired because Greece is really the origin of all Western theater as we know it today. And when I was a young theater student, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Greece, and it changed my life in a really big way. And when I became a teacher, one of the first things I promised myself was that I would always seek to provide educational opportunities that were profound and that were outside of just the classroom and just the theater. And so it was really my goal for several years. This process took a while to get approved. So when we went to Greece, we were looking at the ancient architectural pieces, but also the ancient theaters, and talking about the first playwrights and the first performers and seeing plays in the ancient theaters. And so it was really a nice way to get the kids inspired to look at really ancient Greek theater and where everything stems from today.
Miss Stephens, let me tell you, you literally changed lives with that trip. The high school student in me was like, why did I not go to this school and go to her class? Yo, I'm so jealous. But Brandon, to you personally, going overseas, experiencing a different culture, how did you engage with the local culture and theater scene in Greece? How was that?
Well, I think the culture there, it was a big culture shock for me because when we first landed in the airport in Greece, pretty much nobody spoke English. And it was really confusing and actually kind of cool to be able to experience all the different cultures and seeing how they do things different than how we do it here in America.
That's a great way to look at it, Brandon, by the way. That's a very mature way to look at it, because any other time, if you're somewhere where no one speaks your language, you kind of feel lost, out of place, and you're looking for help. So I'm glad you looked at it with that fresh set of eyes. Join us right here on the Splash Live. West Bloomfield High School theater teacher and director Kristine Stephens, as well as Brandon Young, West Bloomfield High School theater student also. So Miss Stephens, if you don't mind, how do you feel like the educational benefits that you observed the students experiencing from the Greek theater kind of helped them in their role?
That was a really heartwarming thing for me as a teacher, is to see how inspired they were and to listen to the conversations that they had on their own without really me eliciting it.
Right.
After each theater performance that we saw, they engaged in conversations talking about how different it was and what they liked and disliked. And it was the two performances were very unique and very a complete contrast to what we would something that I would take them to see in America today. So that was fascinating. They were taking their current knowledge of theater and pulling it to this other cultural experience. One show that we saw was in the Greek language, so we had to read subtitles. But the physical expression was quite incredible, and the set and the technical aspects too. I think they struggled a little bit, but overall, that was the show that elicited the most conversation. And then for me, when I asked students to perform at the Ancient Theater of Argos, there was no audience, but we were performing in this space. And then students that I didn't ask to perform wanted to. And so we were like pulling monologues and scripts and performing on the spot, and seeing that light and energy. And they just wanted to perform in that space. That was so beautiful.
Oh my God. Look, you see me smile. I'm so happy. I feel like I went to the trip, but I didn't go to the trip with you. It seems so nice. And like I said, such a cultural, international experience. I know it meant a lot to the students. But let's hear it from you personally, Brandon. Your favorite memory or takeaway from that trip?
Wow. Favorite memory. I think my favorite memory would be when we went to Tolo and I got to swim in the Aegean Sea. I think that was really cool that I got to swim in international waters. So,
Yeah,
but
man. Yeah.
I'd also like
Nice.
to give a big thank you to Miss Stevens for letting me perform at that ancient stage. It was really cool, and I will forever be changed by that. So, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you, Miss Steven. That's coming from me too, and us here at the Splash. Join us right now, theater teacher and director Kristine Stephens, as well as West Bloomfield High School theater student Brandon Young. Just talking about their recent trip to Greece. Now, Miss Stephens, if you don't mind, I basically want to know with this trip and the experience that came with it, how do you plan to integrate the experience and lessons learned from this trip into your theater curriculum going back to West Bloomfield High School?
So that's a great question. So the students, this Brandon's one of them. So the two students that performed a scene
Mm-hmm.
from Antigone, they are competing with that scene at a theater festival this year. I think what was
Mm.
exciting was that they understood how profound and how interesting and actually relatable ancient theater is. So this fall we're doing A Midsummer Night's Dream, which isn't Greek; it's Shakespeare, obviously. But I think I'm
Okay.
more excited. I think potentially the kids are more interested and intrigued by the fact that ancient theater can actually be very visceral and relatable to a teenager nowadays.
Mm.
And I think that just kind
Good
of
point.
that little kind of touching our toes into like why theater started and the messages that theater carries, they're long lasting. And so yeah, and I would like to do another Greece trip, and then one day, of course, do a Greek theater piece in our big auditorium.
Ooh, that'd be exciting. Yeah, I might have to go back to high school, try to take that next trip with you, Miss Stevens. Now, Brandon, asking you, this this appears to be something that you are very passionate about. What I would I would assume that you want to pursue after high school, but ultimately from this trip, what did you learn that you feel like helps build you, or build you as an actor or a performer, I should say?
That's a really good question. One thing I really took away from the trip was that in Greek theater they use a lot of emotion. So I feel like tapping into your emotions and being able to control it for the scenes that you do is really important if you want to pursue acting in theater. And me
Hmm.
personally,
Yeah.
I want to go into film acting. So I feel like some of the stuff from,
Oh,
Greek theater and the theater that I do at West Bloomfield High School could help me on my journey for my film
yeah.
career.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and that was a great response to that too. Man, when you say that, I'm thinking about the movies that we watch and how you can literally see like that's a great part of the acting, the emotions to the situation in their face. That has a lot to do with being a good actor, good performer. If you ask me personally, I know we're kind of short on time. Just to kind of get out of here, Miss Stevens, you touched on it briefly. Another trip to Greece is possibly in the works, or at least in your future plan. Any other future plans? Any other international trips or anything that you may have other than another Greece trip for our theater students to kind of get them more acquainted with performing in theater?
Yes, that is, I think one of my gifts and one of my faults is that I love adventure, I love traveling, and I just take the students along for the ride, and they're amazing with that. So we're going to New York next summer for a Broadway tour, and then
Ooh.
we travel nationally and do different competitions and stuff like that. I did toy around with the idea of taking them to the Stratford Theater, which is where a lot of great Shakespeare is performed. Um,
Okay.
and
Okay.
and then my trip to Greece would be 2 summers from now. So I kind of have this vision of New York, Greece, New York, Greece, New York, Greece, so that
Ah.
they could potentially do both or save for one or count on one. I feel like having something set in sort of stone helps them get excited and helps pull theater kids into our school district. Like you said, I would have wanted
Oh.
to go on that as well when I was in high school.
Yeah, yes, trust me. Yeah, these students are very lucky, very fortunate to have a teacher and a leader and director like yourself. I want to thank both of you again for joining us right here on the Splash Live. West Bloomfield High School theater teacher and director Kristine Stephens and West Bloomfield High School theater student Brandon Young talking about their trip to Greece. Thank you for being here and sharing your stories.
Thank you so much for having us. It was
Thank
our
you for
pleasure.
having us.